My name is Savannah. The night my marriage died, I was not in my living room, or lying awake in bed, or scrolling through his phone hoping for proof. I was standing in the middle of a mansion, under pulsing lights, staring at my husband as he stripped his shirt off for another woman. He had told me he had a late client dinner. He had kissed my cheek, worn his tailored shirt, and left smelling like cologne I did not buy. I almost let it slide. Almost. But something in his tone had been wrong for weeks. A little too light. A little too careful. When he left, I checked his discarded jacket. Inside I found a folded card. An invitation. Private event. Her name embossed in gold letters. Not work. Not dinner. Party. For months I had suspected her. A woman I had seen once at his office leaning too close. Whispers at charity events. A text that flashed on his phone before he snatched it away. But suspicion is not enough. Tonight would be different. Tonight I decided I would not walk in alone. First I called her fiancé. I had found him weeks earlier through her social media posts, the ones she thought were private. He picked up on the second ring. I told him I had something he needed to see. He did not believe me at first, but when I showed him the invitation and hinted at what his fiancé had been doing, his voice dropped to a single word. Where? Then I reached out to her parents. Old-fashioned, wealthy, proud of their daughter's engagement. They believed she was at a bridal tasting. When I told them the truth, they argued. But when I sent a photo of the invitation with her name glowing in gold, silence filled the line. 10 minutes later, they agreed to meet me. So I didn't walk into that mansion with just suspicion. I walked in with allies. With witnesses. With people who had everything to lose. The mansion pulsed with bass. Lights flickered across velvet curtains. Guests cheered as champagne sprayed. In the center on a raised platform was my husband. My partner of 7 years. His shirt halfway unbuttoned, his tie twirling in his hand like a prop. And seated directly in front of him was her. His mistress. Legs crossed, eyes glittering, glass lifted high as if she had won a prize. The fiancé's face went white. Her parents gasped, one hand flying to her mouth, the other clutching the father's arm. And I didn't freeze. I didn't scream. My blood was ice, but my steps were steady. I moved through the crowd, each heel striking like a countdown. When he saw me, everything faltered. His grin cracked. His movements slowed. For a second, he looked like a man caught in headlights, his lies finally illuminated. He tried to recover, tried to laugh it off, but the music could not drown the truth in the room. The fiancé shouted her name, his voice breaking the rhythm. Guests turned. Phones lifted, recording. Her parents stared at her like strangers. The music kept pounding, but the party was over. And in that moment, standing in the glare of neon lights and betrayal, I knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Because I had more than their eyes on him. I had proof, documents, photos, recordings, that would turn this humiliation into destruction. He thought being caught half-naked at her party was the worst that could happen. But he hadn't yet seen what I carried in my bag. And before the night ended, every lie he had built would collapse in front of everyone. The bass thumped. Colored lights slid over faces like masks. My husband stood frozen on the platform, shirt open, tie hanging. The mistress looked from him to me, then to the people who walked in with me. Her fiancé. Her parents. The room held its breath like a held note. I stepped forward. I did not raise my voice. I did not tremble. Good evening, I said. We were invited. Murmurs rippled. A camera phone rose. Then another. Then 20. The fiancé moved first. He pointed at her. Stand up. His voice cracked on the second word. She tried to laugh. She tried to throw her hair over one shoulder like this was harmless. Her mother said her name through clenched teeth. Her father took a slow step, as if crossing a courtroom. My husband found his smile again, the one he uses at charity dinners. Savannah, this is a joke. He reached for me like we were partners in a bit. I did not take his hand. I held up the invitation with her name in gold. The joke is over, I said. The crowd turned to her. A friend of hers tried to cut in. No drama tonight. The fiancé answered for me. There is no drama. There is truth. He climbed onto the platform and faced my husband, chest to chest. You told me you were just colleagues. My husband lowered his voice. We can talk outside. The fiancé shook his head. We talk here. Her mother reached her daughter's chair. Tell me this is wrong. The mistress lifted her chin. It is a performance. The mother looked at the platform. At my husband's bare chest. At the bills tucked into the tie like a dare. She whispered, You lied to us. The music cut. Someone had pulled the plug. The quiet hurt. My husband stepped down and tried to shepherd me toward a side hall. We will discuss this at home. I planted my feet. We will not. I nodded at the fiancé. He reached into his pocket and produced a small flash drive. He held it like a key. He had given it to me earlier in a parking lot. Now I handed it to the host's technician, a bored man who wanted a story. Play the video, I said. He hesitated. The fiancé said, Do it please. The technician slid it into the console. The screens around the room lit up. First clip. A hotel lobby from 2 months ago. My husband and the mistress checking in. Registered as Mr. and Mrs. He kissed her forehead. She took the key. Timestamp at the bottom corner glowed like a wound. Second clip. A dressing room mirror from a boutique. She leaned against him while he filmed them both. Chosen for the party, she said. He nodded. I will make it memorable. She laughed into his neck. Third clip. An audio file over a still image. His voice. Her hours are set. She will be at the charity board. We have 4 hours. A rustle. Then her voice. You will tell her? He answered, later. Gasps rolled through the room. Her parents stared at the screens. The father's jaw clenched until the skin went white. The fiancé's face emptied of hope. My husband lunged for the console. 2 men blocked him. The technician backed away with his hands up. I stood still. Let the evidence work. Let him drown in his own words. The fiancé turned slowly to the mistress. How long? She did not answer. He asked again, quieter. How long? She swallowed. Since spring. He nodded once like a judge passing sentence. He slipped the ring from his pocket and laid it on the platform. It made a small sound, a clean click that cut deeper than any shout. The father spoke at last. You will leave this house now. She stood stunned. It is my party. He did not raise his voice. It is our house. The mother's eyes shone with a grief that looked older than the room. You did not just betray him, she said, nodding to the fiancé. You betrayed us. My husband tried to pivot. He has always been good at pivots. Savannah, I am sorry. I made mistakes. I can explain. He spread his hands, palms up, like a performer offering proof of empty sleeves. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. I did not open it yet. I wanted the room to feel the weight before it saw the pages. You can explain this, I said. Expense reports labeled as client dinners that matched those hotel dates. Cash withdrawals the morning after. Photos of gifts bought with our savings. I held the folder. I did not hand it to him. I handed it to her father. He scanned the first page. His mouth tightened. He passed it to the fiancé. The fiancé read a line and shook his head. You used my booking to hide your trip. He looked at her. You used me as cover. Her friends backed away like a tide. Phones kept filming. The party had become a record. Security approached the platform. The host's manager whispered to me. Do you want him removed? I said, Not yet. My husband snapped. This is trespassing. The manager said, This is an owner's house. He jutted his chin toward the parents. The balance in the room shifted. My husband's bravado flickered. He lowered his voice and reached for me again. Savannah, you do not want this to be public. I kept my eyes on his. You made it public. I am only lighting the sign. He glanced at the folder in the fiancé's hand. He understood that I had not come with anger. I had come with sequence. I nodded to the technician. Last file. The screens went black then bright. A calendar appeared with blocks marked in red. Days circled. Notes written in his shorthand. Then a close-up of a note in his handwriting. Rehearsal. Private show. After party proposal. The date matched tonight. He had planned to humiliate me and then propose to her in her parents' house, with my money paying for the band. The room exhaled like a punctured lung. The mother pressed a hand to her chest. The father looked at the ring on the platform and then at the man who had strutted. His voice went colder. Out. Now. My husband looked at me with a new expression. Not shame. Calculation. He understood he had lost this room. He scanned exits. He weighed audience against survival. He chose survival. He stepped off the platform and pushed through the crowd. I followed. Not to stop him. To direct him. Front hall, I said to the fiancé. Please. He moved ahead, opening space. Security guided us all to the marble foyer. The music did not restart. The house sounded like breath held too long. In the foyer stood a small table set for gifts. On it, boxes and bags and ribbons. Among them, the smallest envelope. My handwriting on the front. I had placed it there 10 minutes before stepping into the main room. He saw it now. He hesitated. He knows my envelopes. He knows when they contain a warning. He tore it open with a sneer. He read one line and blanched. The fiancée leaned closer. Her parents leaned in. I scanned the words I had chosen with care. The envelope held a keycard and a single sentence. Suite 412 is paid for by your card and reserved under her name. Your boss is waiting there. My husband's face drained. He whispered. No. I said, yes. And the foyer doors opened as a new figure stepped in, carrying a briefcase that could end him twice over. The foyer doors opened with a groan, and in stepped a man in a tailored suit, rein on his shoulders, a briefcase in his hand. He wasn't a stranger. He was my husband's boss, the one who signed his paychecks, the one who had vouched for him at every board meeting. And now, he stood in the house his mistress's parents owned, staring at the scene like he had walked into a courtroom instead of a party. My husband stammered first. Sir, this isn't what it looks like. His boss's eyes dropped to the envelope still clutched in his hand. He saw the keycard. He read the single sentence. His jaw tightened. The mistress shifted in her chair, panic creeping across her face. Her fiancé spoke before anyone else. He was going to propose tonight. To her. After stripping for her in front of all of us. He pointed at my husband. With money he stole. The boss turned to me. His voice low, controlled. Do you have proof? I opened my bag and pulled out the thicker folder I had kept back. I have more than proof. I have his own handwriting, his receipts, his transfers. I handed it over. His boss flipped pages, eyes narrowing with every line. He billed the company for these dinners. He called them client meetings. Gasps rippled through the foyer. Her parents looked like they were carved from stone. The fiancé's fists clenched at his sides. The mistress's glass slipped from her hand, champagne spilling across the marble. My husband lunged for the folder. The boss snapped it shut and pulled it away. Enough. I will review this myself. But if what I see here is true, your career is finished. He turned to me. May I keep these copies? I nodded. I had more. Always more. The boss left, briefcase under his arm without another word. The door slammed behind him. My husband turned back to me, eyes blazing. You don't know what you've started. But I did. I had been building toward this for weeks. Every late night, every odd charge, every half-truth had become another piece of my case. Tonight wasn't a guess. It was the moment the pattern finally bared its teeth. I remembered the first time the suspicion became undeniable. He came home late smelling of perfume that wasn't mine. He claimed it was from a crowded cab. The next day I checked our joint account. A charge at a boutique, $2,000 for a dress. Later I saw her wearing it in a tagged photo online. That was when I bought a small recorder and placed it in his car. Within days I had audio. Him on the phone whispering. She doesn't suspect anything. Him laughing. Him promising to make it official once he was free. I saved every clip. Then came the credit card bills. Hotel rooms charged under initials that weren't his. Jewelry stores. Dinners at places I had never been invited to. I called the bank, requested detailed statements and highlighted every item. The breaking point was the insurance call. A policy review notice came in my name, doubling coverage without my consent. I called the agent directly. He told me my husband had insisted on the change. He said you had agreed. I asked for copies. The form bore my forged signature. My blood ran cold that day. And so I gathered. I printed. I numbered exhibits. I made duplicates and stored them with Danielle, my sister, who swore she would keep them safe. I handed another set to Mara, my lawyer, who built the legal spine around my evidence. Now in this foyer, with guests watching and phones recording, I revealed just enough to burn his mask. The rest waited for court. But I wasn't finished. I turned to the mistress, her parents staring daggers into her. "Do you know where he was last Thursday?" She froze. "At a meeting," she whispered. I pulled out a photo, him and her leaving a hotel. The timestamp glowed. "No," I said. "He was here. With you. While telling me he was away for work." Her fiancé grabbed the photo, his face darkening. "You lied to me. Again." He tore the engagement ring in half, metal bending with effort, and dropped it at her feet. The guests gasped, some filming, some whispering. The party had turned into a trial, and every second he stayed, more of the truth pressed down on him. My husband's face twisted. He grabbed my arm. "You are destroying us both." His fingers dug in, but I did not flinch. I whispered back, low enough for only him to hear. "No, darling. You destroyed yourself. I just kept the receipts." At that exact moment, the front doors swung open again. This time it wasn't his boss. It was two uniformed officers. One carried a folder with my name on it. The other said, "Mrs. Savannah Jameson, we need to confirm some documents with you. Tonight." The foyer froze as the officers stepped in. Their uniforms gleamed under the chandelier. One held a folder stamped with the county seal. The other scanned the room, taking in the crowd, the cameras, the man half-dressed and trembling, and me, still standing firm. "Mrs. Savannah Jameson?" the taller officer asked. "Yes," I answered, my voice steady. "We need to speak with you privately. It concerns financial documents connected to your household." My husband's head snapped up. His eyes darted to the folder. He knew exactly what was inside. He started to speak, but the officer cut him off. "Sir, please remain where you are." I nodded and followed them into a side parlor. The guests whispered behind me. Phones buzzed. The mistress's parents looked sick with shame. Her fiancé stared at the shattered ring on the marble. In the parlor, the officer opened the folder. "We've received reports of falsified signatures on insurance documents. We also have flagged transactions tied to company funds. We need to confirm if this is your handwriting." He slid a form toward me. My name was scrawled across the line, but it wasn't mine. I shook my head. "That is forged." The second officer nodded. "That's what we thought. We've already spoken to the insurance agent. He swore you never authorized the increase. We're moving forward with a fraud investigation." I pulled the duplicates from my bag. "Then you'll want these." I laid out the highlighted statements, the hotel receipts, the audio transcripts. Their eyes widened. "You've been preparing," one said. "Yes," I replied, "because I knew this night was coming." When I stepped back into the foyer, the tide had shifted. The crowd no longer whispered, they judged. Phones streamed live. My husband tugged his shirt closed, rage simmering behind his mask. "Savannah, stop this now," he hissed. I looked him straight in the eyes. "You stopped us the day you betrayed me." That was when Danielle arrived, my sister. She pushed through the guests like a storm, her face set. "Savannah." She pulled me into a hug, then turned on him. "You disgust me. I told her not to trust you. Now the whole world sees why." She slipped her arm through mine. For the first time that night, I felt the warmth of true family at my side. Minutes later, Mara, my lawyer, walked in. She carried a slim case and moved like she already owned the room. "I heard the officers were here," she said, cool and direct. She looked at my husband. "You should know we've already filed motions to freeze the joint accounts. By morning you won't touch a cent." His face drained. "You can't." "We can," Mara cut in. "Forgery and fraud are crimes, not marital squabbles. And Savannah has more than enough evidence." The mistress tried to interject, voice trembling. "This isn't fair." "It was just a mistake," her father snapped. "Enough." The room fell silent. "You brought shame into our house. You brought this man into our family while lying to your fiancé, to us, and to yourself. You will leave tonight." The fiancé, jaw tight, added. And I'll make sure everyone at the firm knows what you two were doing. He pulled out his phone, typing fast. Within minutes, the betrayal would spread across social media, across offices, across the city. My husband's eyes darted between me, Mara, the officers, and the guests. He realized the walls were closing in. He reached for my wrist, voice dropping. We can fix this. We can make a deal. I pulled my hand free. No deals. Only truth. Mara leaned close and whispered. Savannah, you have every piece lined up. By tomorrow the law will hold him. Tonight you hold the crowd. Do not waste this moment. I looked around, the mistress crumbling under her parents' stare, the fiancé ready to explode, the officers waiting, the guests recording every second. This was not just a confrontation. It was a stage. And every piece of evidence I had was a spotlight ready to burn him alive. Then Jack, Mara's investigator, strode through the doorway carrying a black duffel bag. He dropped it on the floor with a thud. Savannah, he said, we found his storage unit, and you need to see what was inside. Jack unzipped the duffel and set the contents on the marble floor. The room smelled of dust and old fabric. People leaned back as if the air had become hot. My heart hammered in my throat. I forced my hand steady. Inside the bag were boxes, receipts spilled out like confessions, envelopes stuffed with cash, a small velvet pouch with a men's watch, a stack of Polaroids tied with a rubber band. Picked one up. It showed him and her in a hotel room. The timestamp matched hotel receipts in my folder. Jack handed Mara a sealed hard drive. Forensics copied everything at the unit, he said. We have chain of custody. We have video and audio from months back. We have a pattern. Mara did not smile. Her jaw tightened. She opened her briefcase and slid the drive inside. Guests watched like jury members. Her father trembled. The mistress covered her face. My husband stood alone in a small island of shame. He tried to speak but his voice cracked. You went into my things. He sounded like a man who had lost his script. I did not answer him. I spoke to the people who mattered now. This is what I have been gathering, I said. Receipts, recordings, forged insurance forms, and now these boxes from the storage unit. Every piece is dated. Every lead has a backup. I let the words land. Mara stood and addressed the room in a voice that cut. We will proceed in 2 lanes. One legal, one public. The legal lane secures accounts, freezes assets, and builds criminal referrals for fraud and conspiracy. The public lane controls the narrative so we are never accused of theatrics. We release facts, not emotion. We time everything. She paused and looked at me. Savannah, are you ready? I felt the edge of everything inside me. I had rehearsed, but I had never imagined the crowd. I nodded. Yes. My voice was small but firm. The night had become a hinge. I would not let it swing back. Jack laid out a map on the foyer table. He used sticky notes and a printed timeline. This is his travel schedule, he said. These are the hotel stays. These pins show where receipts match bank withdrawals. He pointed to a cluster of dates. Here is where the pattern trips from weeks to months. The storage unit repeats the items we found in receipts. It is a trail. Mara added. We file a criminal referral first thing. We attach the storage inventory, the recordings, and verified bank transfers. Next, we ask the judge for temporary restraining orders and account freezes. Then we let the DA pick the charges. Her tone was direct. Her plan moved like a machine. Lena, who had been quiet until now, set her phone down and tapped her screen. She showed a screen with media channels. We release a short statement when the filings are public, she said. No leaks. No op-edition. A single packet with exhibits attached to a verified reporter. We control timing so the press cannot spin it into gossip. Her fingers moved fast. Her calm was sharper than any sword. Danielle squeezed my hand. We will stand with you in interviews, she said. We will show who you are at home, not the caricature he will try to create. Her eyes had water in them. She would testify. She always would. We broke the plan into small steps. Each step had a backup. Mara wrote dates on a pad. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. We file for emergency seizure of assets connected to the accounts. At 10 a.m. We file the criminal referral. At noon we deliver evidence to the DA. 2 p.m. We release the press packet to our reporter. She underlined each time. If he moves accounts, we file contempt. If he goes public with lies, Lena publishes raw evidence with forensic notes. Jack added a technical move. We will get a preservation order on his devices. We will demand immediate imaging of his cloud backups. If he deletes anything, it only adds to the charges. He paused. We already imaged one phone from the storage unit. It had sync logs that match his travel. He tapped the hard drive case like a gavel. My stomach twisted. This was legal warfare. It felt like a battlefield inside a ballroom. I had wanted proof. I had wanted justice. I had not known it would require such exact measures. Mara smiled once, the kind of small smile that meant the hunt was underway. We will not humiliate him in public beyond the truth, she said. We are not here to punish for spectacle. We are here to present facts. The court will decide consequences. The public will see the truth. I looked at my husband. He slumped against the banister. The man I had loved looked stripped of everything that mattered to him. Behind his collapse I saw fear that was raw and small. I felt no triumph. I felt the heavy taste of finality. The mistress's fiancé had not left. He walked to the table and picked up a photograph. He looked at it like it was a knife that had been turned in him. He dropped it in front of my husband. Explain this, he said. My husband opened his mouth and made a sound that was not a word. The mansion had begun to empty in a strange tide. Guests left in small groups. Some walked with their faces down. Some filmed. The lights hummed low. The party had ended and something else had started. Mara pulled me aside into a quiet alcove. She took my hand and said, "We will file tonight if the prosecutor agrees to accept the packet. We need your sworn statement and an affidavit attesting to chain of custody." She handed me the paper. "Sign this now. It will formalize the plan." I signed. The ink felt heavy, like a promise, like a trap closing. As I handed the papers back, Jack's phone lit up. His face went white. He read the message aloud. "There is a transfer. $30,000 just moved out of the joint account. 5 minutes ago." My throat closed. Mara looked up, voice cold. "They started. Now we see how fast this will become a race." The message hit like a punch. $30,000 moved out of our joint account. 5 minutes ago. Jack read it twice. His fingers shook. "They are fast," he said. "They flagged one account. But he used a secondary." Mara's face hardened. "We expected counters. They started earlier than we thought." She closed her briefcase and stood. "This changes the timing. We accelerate. Now." We left the mansion in a flurry. Reporters clustered at the gate. Phones recorded our faces. My husband watched from the doorway like a man watching the world burn around him. He did not run. He did not plead. He had more tricks. He was not finished. At the law office, Mara called the bank. Her voice was precise and cold. She invoked emergency procedures. She demanded an immediate freeze on any account linked to our joint funds. The clerk on the line warned it would take documentation. Mara said, "Tell the clerk to expect a court order in 60 minutes. She hung up and turned to me. "We file the motion now." Jack drove to the bank branch with a hard drive. He carried evidence of the transfers. He met a teller who had not believed in midnight conspiracies before. Jack handed over printouts, timestamps, and the storage unit inventory. The teller put a code on the account and promised to limit outbound transfers pending court order. It was small victory. It was not enough. Back at the office, Lena worked the press thread. "We release the affidavit now," she said. "We cannot let them control the narrative by moving funds. We must show intent." She drafted a short statement. It said simply that evidence had been submitted, and that authorities were investigating fraud. No drama. No flourish. Just facts. Then she sent it to one verified reporter and requested embargo until we confirmed the freeze. My husband did not wait. He launched his own line. Within an hour, a smear appeared online. It claimed I had staged the party to humiliate him. It called me vindictive and dishonest. It used screenshots of a private message he had fabricated. The post trended in a small circle of friends and colleagues. Stung like salt, Mara did not flinch. "We expected this," she said. "Counter is false. We will demand takedown and sanctions." Then the pivot I had feared. A lawyer representing his firm sent an email demanding we withdraw pending public accusations or face defamation. He claimed reputational harm. Mara read it, then smiled thinly. "They tried to weaponize defamation to silence us. We answer with evidence and a public filing. They cannot bully the court." At 2 p.m. we filed the emergency motion with the clerk. Papers moved through channels like a fast river. The judge assigned a hearing for the next morning. We had forced the timeline back on him. For now, it felt like a small triumph. But the night brought a new threat. My husband appeared on a social feed with a shaky video. He spoke in a voice that tried to sound wounded. He accused me of betrayal. He accused me of staging. He pleaded for privacy for the mistress's family. The comments swelled, some sympathetic, others judgmental. It was messy. It was expected. That same night my phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. A single sentence. "If you take everything, we take her career." The word career hit me like a physical thing. The mistress was a professional with a public life. Someone warned me they would destroy her. They wanted to give me a choice by threat. I showed the text to Mara. She looked at it and then at me. "They are trying to trade damage," she said. "We must make this about facts, not revenge. We will protect the innocent and prosecute the guilty." Her voice was steady. Her plan was clinical. I wanted to scream. I wanted to strike back. But we kept to the timeline. We were not his mirror. At dawn I went to the courthouse. The stairwell smelled like coffee and paper. Cameras lined the steps. People whispered my name like a verdict. My husband arrived with his attorney. He looked tired but defiant. The mistress was not there. Her parents sat in the front row, faces tight with conflict. The fiancé sat stone-faced. Inside the courtroom the judge listened to arguments. Mara laid out the chain of transfers. Jack presented timestamps and storage unit evidence. I signed affidavits and answered under oath, careful and precise. The prosecutor listened with a face that meant action was likely. Then the unexpected blow. His attorney presented a motion to force immediate disclosure of my private recordings. He accused me of tampering. The judge paused. The court clerk shuffled papers. The room held its breath. Mara objected. She argued chain of custody. She argued preserved backups. She reminded the judge we had image drives off-site. The judge ruled partially in our favor. He allowed some material for review but ordered forensic imaging of devices belonging to both parties. He ordered an injunction preventing either party from deleting or altering files. He paused and looked at my husband. "Counsel, any attempt to move funds or destroy evidence will result in contempt and likely arrest." My husband stared at the judge like a man who could not see the news. He left the courtroom white-lipped but still breathing. Outside, cameras waited to capture his face. He spoke to a reporter, voice clipped. "I will fight these false charges," he said. "My life will be ruined by lies." He walked away. As we left the courthouse, a detective pulled Mara aside. He handed her a small printout. "We traced the 30,000, he said. "It did not come from him alone. There is a series of shell accounts. This goes higher than a jealous husband. Someone else wired part of the funds." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Then we find the hand," she said. "And we follow it to the source." The detective's words burned in my ears. Shell accounts. Higher than him. I wanted to scream that I only came to expose a cheating husband, not unravel a conspiracy. But Mara leaned close and whispered, "This is bigger leverage. Do not fear it. Use it." The next morning the courtroom was fuller than before. Reporters filled the benches. Even strangers lined the back rows, hungry for spectacle. My husband walked in, chin high, wearing his sharpest suit, as if fabric could hide rot. His attorney carried a stack of motions. They looked confident. They believed bluster could erase fact. The judge began. "We will hear final arguments on account seizures, evidentiary custody, and injunctive relief." His tone was clipped steel. His attorney rose first. "Your Honor, my client is being smeared. These documents are doctored. These videos lack verification. This is a bitter spouse weaponizing gossip. We ask the court to dismiss the motions and sanction opposing counsel for abuse. Mara stood. Her calm was louder than shouting. Your Honor, fabrication is loud. Proof is steady. We submit authenticated bank transfers verified by the issuing institution. We submit receipts with timestamps that match hotel guest logs. We submit recordings preserved in chain of custody, now imaged by court order. And we add. She paused, sliding a fresh envelope across the bench. A sworn statement from the mistress's fiancé, corroborating dates, hotels, and admissions of intent. Gasps rippled. The fiancé sat in the front row, his jaw set, eyes cold. He nodded once, confirming his words. The judge scanned the affidavit and adjusted his glasses. Mara continued, voice sharper. And finally, we submit evidence obtained from a storage unit leased under the petitioner's name, containing cash, receipts, and personal effects matching the fraudulent expenditures. She placed photographs on the projector. The images flashed across the courtroom. Stacks of receipts, velvet pouches, Polaroids. Silence dropped like a hammer. My husband sprang up, shouting, "Those are planted lies." The judge slammed his gavel. "Sit down." His voice rattled the walls. My husband dropped into his seat, chest heaving. Then Mara gestured to Jack. He wheeled in a monitor. Your Honor, we request permission to play an audio clip authenticated by forensic specialists. It captures the petitioner in conversation with the respondent's mistress. The judge nodded. Play it. The courtroom filled with my husband's voice, unmistakable. She will not know. After the trip, we are free. I already doubled the policy. Then her voice, soft but clear. And Savannah? His answer. An accident waiting to happen. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, hands covering mouths. Reporters scribbled like their pens were on fire. The judge banged his gavel until quiet returned. Mara did not smile. Your Honor, this is not bitterness. This is conspiracy. Motive, means, and premeditation. We ask the court to freeze all accounts, secure evidence, and refer this case to the district attorney immediately. The judge turned to his attorney. Counsel, do you contest authenticity? His lawyer faltered. We request more time. The judge shook his head. Denied. He leaned forward. This court cannot ignore what it has heard. The gavel came down. All joint accounts frozen. All evidence secured. Custody remains with Mrs. Jameson. And this matter is referred for criminal review. The crowd exploded with noise. My husband's parents bowed their heads. The mistress burst into tears, her hands covering her face. The fiancé sat still as stone. Reporters shouted questions over each other. My husband lunged to his feet. This is a witch hunt, he roared. The bailiff stepped forward, gripping his arm. He twisted, resisting. The crowd's phones rose like weapons. Every frame captured. Every second recorded. I stood still. Not triumphant. Not broken. Just steady. This was the reveal. The execution of weeks of quiet gathering. The moment truth stood taller than every lie. As the bailiff pulled him toward the exit, his attorney dropped a whisper into the judge's ear. The judge frowned, then turned to Mara. Counsel, there is a sealed envelope filed late last night. It claims new evidence against your client. We will address it in chambers now. The room stilled again. My breath caught. The reveal was mine, but the enemy had just played another card. The judge's words sliced through the noise. A sealed envelope filed late last night. New evidence against the respondent. Every eye in the courtroom turned. Cameras clicked like gunfire. My throat tightened. Mara's hand pressed lightly against my arm. Do not react, she whispered. We control this. The bailiff carried the envelope forward. Heavy paper. Red seal. The judge broke it, skimmed the first page, and frowned. This alleges that Mrs. Jameson fabricated audio files. It includes a supposed expert affidavit claiming the recordings could be edited. He looked up, his gaze sharp. Counsel. My husband smirked for the first time that day. He leaned back in his chair, whispering something to his attorney. The mistress lifted her head, hope flickering across her tear-streaked face. Reporters leaned forward, pens poised. Mara rose calmly. Your Honor, the timing is telling. Filed late, without notice, after the evidence was authenticated. We ask the court to reveal the affiant's credentials immediately. The judge flipped a page. Affidavit signed by a Dr. Leonard Harris, audio consultant. Mara's eyes narrowed. Your Honor, Dr. Harris was discredited 2 years ago for falsifying expert testimony in another case. We request judicial notice of that record. Gasps rippled. My husband's smirk faltered. Mara pressed. Furthermore, the chain of custody for our recordings is intact. Officers witnessed retrieval. Devices were sealed and imaged under court supervision. Any claim of fabrication is itself a fabrication. The judge leaned back, considering. We will allow limited review but proceed with current orders intact. The court is not persuaded by this late filing. His gavel cracked. Protective orders remain. The relief in my chest was sharp but fragile. My husband's attorney tried to salvage the blow. Your Honor, at least delay asset freezes until review. The judge cut him off. Denied. Enough games. The mistress broke again, burying her face in her hands. The fiancé stood and walked out without a word, slamming the doors behind him. Her parents stared straight ahead, their faces gray with shame. Reporters surged the moment the judge adjourned. Questions hammered the air. Savannah, did you fake the recordings? Savannah, are you safe? What's next for your husband? Mara shielded me with her briefcase, guiding me through the crush. Jack flanked us, his jaw set. Danielle gripped my arm, steadying me as flashbulbs popped. In the courthouse hallway, Mara spoke fast. They're testing us. They'll try more stunts. But today you won. The evidence stands. Jack's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then cursed under his breath. It's spreading already. The smear about fake audio is live on 3 forums. They're trying to bend the public narrative. Lena, waiting with her laptop open, was ready. We counter with documents. We push chain of custody certifications, officer affidavits, and the forensic report. We do it now. By the time his smear hits mainstream, our truth will be louder. As she typed, I saw a shadow down the hallway. My husband, surrounded by his attorney and 2 reporters he favored. His eyes locked on mine. He mouthed one word. War. He vanished into the stairwell. By evening, the fallout spread across every screen. News anchors debated. Some played the shove from the party again. Others dissected the audio. One segment replayed Mara's words. Fabrication is loud. Proof is steady. That line echoed everywhere. But the sealed envelope rattled me. If they could find one discredited expert, they could find another. They would throw mud until something stuck. At midnight, a new email pinged my inbox. No sender. No subject. Just one line. If you think he's finished, you don't know who else paid for the party. Attached was a bank transfer. The amount, $50,000. The sender, a company name I didn't recognize. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding. Someone bigger than him had been funding his betrayal. And now that shadow wanted me to know the game wasn't over. The email glowed on my laptop screen long after midnight. $50,000. A transfer from a company I had never heard of. My chest felt tight. Betrayal by my husband was one thing. A shadow bankrolling him was something else entirely. By dawn I was back in Mara's office. The windows still dark, coffee steaming on her desk. Jack leaned over my shoulder as I replayed the attachment. They wanted you to see this, he muttered. Not hide it. That means intimidation. Mara's jaw clenched. It also means they're sloppy. If they're warning us, it's because they're afraid of what we already have. She pointed at the transfer. This is not just a man cheating on his wife. This is fraud tied to bigger hands. We escalate. At 9 a.m., we sat with the district attorney's team. Prosecutors pored over receipts, recordings, the storage unit photos. I slid the new transfer across the table. Their lead investigator whistled. This connects him to corporate fraud. We will loop in financial crimes. He looked at me. You may have saved other victims without realizing it. It didn't feel like victory. It felt heavier, like chains shifting. Outside the courthouse, cameras still swarmed. Reporters shouted. Savannah, is it true he had corporate backers? Savannah, Do you fear for your safety? I said nothing. Mara ushered me into the car. Silence was power now. At Danielle's house, I watched my daughter eat cereal, blissfully unaware. Her laugh bubbled, cutting through the storm. My heart broke and healed at the same time. This was why I endured. By afternoon, the smear campaign grew louder. His allies online pushed hashtags accusing me of fabricating everything. Clips from the sealed envelope hearing circulated. Troll accounts spread lies. But Lena was ready. She published the full forensic report. Officers' signatures, timestamps, chain of custody photos. Facts louder than spin. Reporters picked it up. The smear began to fold. That evening, the DA called again. We've confirmed multiple shell companies linked to his mistress's family. Seems she wasn't just a lover. She was leverage. Her parents' faces flashed in my mind, the shame etched in marble. Had they known? Or had someone used their wealth as cover? The thought twisted like a knife. At 7 p.m., Mara gathered us. We're entering the final act. Tomorrow, a public hearing on asset seizures and criminal referrals. He will try something desperate. Expect it. She looked at me hard. Are you steady? I nodded. My hands shook under the table, but my voice was firm. I'm ready. That night, alone in Danielle's guest room, I scrolled through the evidence one last time. Every receipt, every recording, every photo. Each piece was a brick in the wall between me and his lies. Then my phone buzzed again. Another email. This time a video file. No subject, no message. I pressed play. Grainy footage filled the screen. A dark room. My husband, sitting across from a man whose face was obscured by shadow. My husband's voice low. Once Savannah's out of the way, the accounts are clean. No one traces it back. The other man leaned forward, sliding papers across the table. The video cut off. My hands shook. Someone else was orchestrating more than betrayal. My husband was only one piece. Tomorrow's hearing was no longer just about him. It was about exposing whoever stood behind him in the shadows. The courtroom was packed for the final hearing. Reporters filled every row. The air smelled of paper and sweat, tense with anticipation. My husband entered first, shackled by his own arrogance, flanked by his attorney. He avoided my gaze. He knew the walls had closed. Mara rose with calm precision. She laid the grainy video on the table, authenticated by forensics overnight. The judge leaned forward, watching as my husband's voice filled the room. Once Savannah's out of the way, the accounts are clean. No one traces it back. Then the shadowed man sliding papers across the table. The judge's face hardened. This court has seen enough. His gavel struck. All joint and personal accounts remain frozen. Property is awarded to Mrs. Savannah Jameson pending divorce. Criminal charges will proceed. The DA stood and added, "We will investigate the shell companies and individuals involved. This is no longer a private betrayal. This is fraud and conspiracy." The mistress's parents sat silent, faces drained of blood. Her fiancé didn't even look at her. He looked at me, nodded once, and left. The mistress crumbled, whispering apologies no one wanted. My husband tried one last time. He stood, eyes wild. "Savannah, please. You love me. Don't let them." His words broke as officers cuffed him. The clink of steel silenced the room. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The evidence had spoken louder than I ever could. That night, Danielle cooked dinner. My daughter laughed with her cousin. For the first time in months, my chest loosened. I looked around the table and saw not ruin but survival. Not loss but freedom. Mara's words echoed in my head. Proof is steady. She was right. Revenge hadn't been fire or shouting. It had been paper, patience, and truth. And it had stripped him bare. He thought betrayal was power. He thought deceit could make me small. But every lie he told was a stone I stacked into a wall that finally buried him. He believed I would break quietly. Instead, I broke the silence. If my story gripped you, remember this. Betrayal doesn't end you unless you let it. Gather proof. Find your allies. Stay steady when the storm rises. And when the time comes, let the truth speak louder than any excuse. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal, justice, and survival. And never forget, sometimes the quietest revenge is the one that leaves them speechless.